Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and I am here with my brother from another who is smiling ear to ear like a Cheshire cat because both of our teams won yesterday and you beat the Ravens. Yes, Crispy Bomb. What's up, brother? How you feeling? We got a lot to get into, including some breaking news, one of which EA being sold privately. Holy matrimony. We're going to give you the presser. We're going to break down what that actually means. And I got some thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. But Crispy, how you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
Feeling good, off a win, a decisive win, got Worthy back, and yes, we look like the old Chiefs again, so we'll see what happens when the Rice comes back. On that note, all of a sudden, hey, we got a show. Hey, here's some breaking news, by the way. Yeah. And also removable controllers and PlayStation 5 controllers. Sounds interesting, but we're not getting into that one. That's probably for another day because there's a lot of smoke for some people that I may have receipts for. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
Yeah, we're actually obviously this was originally advertised that we were going to bring some pointed conversation to a former Microsoft employee. And we'll get to Mike Ybarra and what he had to say, not only of what he originally said to kind of started off during the Tokyo Game Show, but it's what he said over the weekend that was a bit shocking. I would even dare say jarring, especially coming from a position of a C-level executive 2 times with Microsoft. Now, granted, we have the big breaking news. We're going to get to that, but we are going to cover the Mike Ybarra situation. And I just want this to be clear. This isn't a witch hunt. I'm not going to start cursing or dropping F-bombs. We're going to do what we always do on this program. And we are going to bring the smoke, but we're going to do it politically correct because I think it's safe to say that he's old enough to know not to act like a 12-year-old. And that's exactly what he did and how he conducted himself, going back and forth with people on social media, on X, and it's not a good look. But we will get into that. And, of course, hopefully we do get Fuzzy Belvedere here because, speaking of the devil, look, there he is. Holy matrimony. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Fuzzy Belvedere. And you know what? I just mentioned you, and you're going to live forever, bro, because we have a monster-sized Forza Horizon 6 topic with additional information on what's going to be happening within the game, like changing seasons and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, the motorsport team mentioned drifting. We're going to get into that as well. But hey, Fuzzy, how you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
Glad to be here. Hopefully the audio is good. But yeah, man, there's just so much to talk about. So excited about Forza Horizon 6. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to some of these other topics as well. But man, we're gonna do a good show today, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the breaking news. The breaking news is, well, it's pretty big. So it had leaked that it was possible that EA was going to be sold to a private company. Well, it turns out that, and again, I'm going to give you credit. I give credit where credit is due. This comes the way of apnews.com. And the title is Video Game Company Electronic Arts to be acquired for $52.5 billion in the largest ever private equity buyout. Now, the reason why it says 52.5 is because they didn't add the debt. And with that additional debt, it comes to $55 billion with a B, ladies and gentlemen. And who's buying them, you want to know? Well, again, the article written and posted today at 10:19 a.m., written by Michael Leidick and Michelle Chapman, again, posted from the apnews.com. It goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen: Electronic Arts, maker of video games like Madden NFL, Battlefield, and The Sims, is being acquired for $52.5 billion in what could become the largest ever buyout funded by a private equity firm. The private equity firm Silver Lake Partners, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund PIF, and Affinity Partners will pay EA stockholders $210 per share. The companies value the deal at $55 billion, including debt. Affinity Partners is run by President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. PIF, which is already the largest insider stakeholder in Electronic Arts, will be rolling over its existing 9.9% stake in the company. And it goes on to say, finally, the commitment to this massive deal is in line with recent activity by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, wrote Andrew Marick of Raymond James. And here's a quote from that company. The quote goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen: the Saudi PIF has been a very active player in the video game market since 2022, taking a minority stakes in most scaled public video game publishers, and also outright purchases of companies like ESL, Faceit, and SoPlay. He goes on to write, the PIF has made its intentions to scale its gaming arm, Savvy Gaming Group, clear, and the EA deal would represent the biggest such move to date by some distance. Now, thanks to Wario64, gentlemen and chat, I have the presser that comes the way of the current Electronic Arts CEO, Andrew Wilson. So I'm going to read that, and then we're going to get everyone's thoughts and theories. And we do also have a contest going on, by the way. So make sure you copy and paste that hashtag, and you have a chance of winning one of 10 digital gift cards for Xbox. We'll get more into that later. But here is the presser from the CEO, Andrew Wilson. He says this, folks. Team, moments ago, we announced that the board approved an agreement for EA to be acquired by PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. You can read the press release here. Under the terms of the transaction, EA stockholders will receive $210 per share in cash, valuing EA upwards of $55 billion. And after careful evaluation, our board concluded that this transaction is in the best interest of our company and our stockholders. This moment is a recognition of your creativity, your innovation, and your passion. You have built some of the world's most iconic IP, created stories that have inspired global communities, and helped shape culture through interactive experiences. Everything we have achieved and everything that lies ahead is because of you. We are entertaining a new era of opportunity. This is one of the largest, most significant investments ever made in the entertainment industry. Our new partners bring deep experience across sports, gaming, and entertainment. They are committed with conviction to EA. They believe in our people, our leadership, and our long-term vision we are now building together. A couple more paragraphs, folks, and it'll be done. Our mission to EA to inspire the world to play continues to guide everything that we do. Our values, our commitment to our players and fans around the world remain unchanged. With the continued rigor and operational excellence, we can apply the creativity of our teams, accelerate in innovation, and pursue transformative opportunities that position EA to lead the future of entertainment. Together, we'll create experiences that are bold, expressive, and deep connected to inspire generations of players around the world. And in closing, I'm excited to continue as CEO working alongside our leadership team to advance our strategy. United by our vision, we will deliver experiences that transcend platforms and empower players everywhere to create worlds, characters, and stories that are bold, interactive, and deeply connected. And in closing, thank you for your creativity, your commitment, and the passion you bring to EA every day. This is an historic moment, and with the support of our new partners, the future we are building together is brighter than ever. Now, granted, okay, that's a lot of corpo speak, but I really wanted to take the time, because it's context, folks. So again, apologies if it's long-winded, but again, it's a part of the big breaking news. Crispy Bomb, you know, when you see a deal this big, this of course reminds you of something like when Microsoft acquired Activision, or even when PlayStation acquired Bungie. We know that both of those acquisitions are going in opposite directions. Bungie is really not doing well, and you know that's sad, because that means that, you know, you could get more layoffs. Microsoft with Activision, Black Ops 6 is one of the best-selling games, or at least one of the best Call of Duty selling games in years. I mean, we can just go based on the numbers from that top 20 list from PlayStation a couple of weeks ago, where Black Ops 6 was number 5 as best-selling in the last 30 years. I mean, that's really saying something. This is a little different, because this is going to EA is being sold to a private company. And when things like this happen, big changes usually come. And those changes, as I would imagine, is they're going to cut a lot. How much they're going to cut, how many layoffs there's going to be, is definitely a concern. You know, some of the bigger franchises like Battlefield 6, which is coming back in a big way, and there's a lot of people excited for that, are okay. You know, the soccer, which is no longer called FIFA, but the soccer is okay. Madden is okay. Something like The Sims is going to be okay. I would imagine things like Apex Legends don't have to worry, because they just print money. But there's going to be a run, I think, on some IP, and I'm wondering if Microsoft may be in line to pick up a Dragon Age, right? You know, or pick up, you know, one of their older IPs that are just dormant, like Titanfall, for instance, and give that to the Call of Duty teams. Yes, that would be amazing. Let's get your thoughts on this historic moment for EA.
Yeah, that's I don't think I've ever seen a company go private and have such a large purchase. We've seen companies, I think, like I looked like Burger King, some other ones that went back to private only to become, you know, back on the open market eventually, almost to like restructure themselves. When these like multiple firms, you know, invest and do such a thing, generally the way I look at it is they're going to cut a lot of jobs, unfortunately, which I feel like it's going to be. I'd say that they'll probably give it 3 to 6 months, and you're going to start seeing the trickle down effect of that. They're probably going to consolidate a lot of the studios, maybe rebrand them as like exactly what the games they're making. You know, because let's say Battlefield does well after them creating Battlefield Studio and bringing all these studios together. If that works out, which it seems like their marketing is hitting on all cylinders, it should sell really well. You're going to see them continually look at that model and say, do we need to do that more and more, and really even have that extra little like, hey, we're making this game a studio, and it's just called this studio. Will it work? Will it be good? Who knows? I'm sure AI is going to be involved because Saudi Arabia is involved. They're probably going to push a lot of new technology that is probably going to cost people jobs. There's also that aspect that says, okay, they're going to stay off the market for a period of time. And if these companies that bought stay around, then they go and go back on the market eventually. There's also the fact that you don't have to deal with the regulators, and you could potentially in a year or two make a pretty large profit depending on how well you manage the company in those points in times, and sell to one of the larger companies, let's say Microsoft or Amazon or Apple, any of them that can afford it. Potential mergers and such, because you have not as much regulation on you because you're a private company. These options open up to be kind of easier. We saw how quickly the Bethesda deal happened. There wasn't, you know, there was a little bit of talk, but it wasn't to the extent of Activision. So there are a lot of possibilities here. Unfortunately, I think the worst part is that we're going to see more people. There's going to be more consolidation, and people are going to get laid off, and I think that's the worst part of this. But I guess we'll see. I mean, it's the writing's on the wall. We've seen companies do this type of thing before in different ways, and generally it's cost-cutting measures.
You know, you're not wrong. I think that's the big concern, especially where we are in technology, where EA is a very big company. They have thousands and thousands of people. And one of the things that I think when you speak to developers, they're all mostly concerned about what AI is going to do for game development. And something that's going to go private is they're going to try and make maximum dollar because they're spending 55 billion, and of course that's going to come at the cost of getting rid of getting rid of people. That is literally the first thing that jumped to my mind when I saw this and I started reading the bylines of it. I thought, wow, there's going to be a lot of layoffs at EA. Studios that are not doing well, like for instance, BioWare. Yeah, BioWare is, obviously they're not the same as they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. Everybody that was there is gone, right? Like Dragon Age came out and it didn't light up the charts. It didn't do as well as EA thought it was going to do. And they're currently working on now Mass Effect. Now, Mass Effect has a TV series coming out. The game has been in development for many, many years, so there's going to be a game. But something like BioWare is one of those studios that if they can't produce another winner, that's a studio that might just go away. And that would be devastating, Fuzzy Belvedere. Again, I don't think Respawn Entertainment is, worried. They're basically the cash cow for EA right now. The teams that make up all of their sports games, they're safe because those games just print money. You look at a studio like Joseph Fares, for instance. His studio, every game that he drops is a winner, is a banger. So he's good. Him and his team are good. It's the BioWares of the world that haven't produced anything significant in a long time that have me concerned. Let's get your thoughts on this, Fuzzy, because again, this is an ever-evolving story. It is breaking news. Of course, I got about 17 DMs, so I had to talk about it before we get into the other topics. But Fuzzy, let's get your thoughts on the $55 billion buyout by a private organization and what that actually means for developers and gamers alike.
It's a double-edged sword. Like, I see a lot of potential in this private equity takeover where we might have EA revitalize some of their dormant IP. Like a perfect example would be something like a Fight Night. Like they might monetize it slightly different considering how it's a private equity as opposed to a public company, where something I had talked about a while ago, what would probably work better these days is have it where you strictly use Fight Night as a create a character type of format. But if you want an actual Mike Tyson or a Canelo or something like any well-named boxer in there, you might pay $20 to $5 or $5 to $20 per character for those licensed boxers. So it may not be the best structure, but we would get a Fight Night where you would have the mechanics that you want and have it where you can create your own character. You could actually at that point make your own versions of Mike Tyson or someone along those lines and share it amongst the pool of fighters that you can play against online, or you can spend the money and get the actual licensed character, have the actual proper trunks and shoes and so forth. So I look forward to seeing if that is the case. For the most part, Need for Speed was put on the shelf, and it's probably going to be on hold for a while in EA's previous state. But with this private equity, that might change. Although be it that it may go more of I wouldn't say a free-to-play model, but it may go a slightly different route as far as how they monetize it, whether you have to buy car packs or buy different modes as far as like police chase stuff or things like that. But there is some benefit or some potential. Like Not saying that they're going to dig in their old bag of Anthem and actually build a 2.0, but there is that potential. But also the double-edged sword being that when you pay that kind of money, there is going to be some trimming. Anything that's a redundancy to some extent, and I hate referring to people's livelihoods as that, but that's how the bean counters are going to see it. And if there's redundancy where, hey, we don't necessarily need a lot of the people in, let's say, a BioWare because what they've been working on more recently hasn't been recouping the investment. Maybe some of that team can be put towards, additional content for a Battlefield, or maybe, kicking or restarting the servers for Anthem or something like that. So it's tough to say at this point in time. I know a lot of times where investors from Saudi Arabia have been beneficial, and sometimes where it's been less than beneficial. When it came to Embracer Group, it was more of a handshake deal that didn't quite go through, and we saw the fallout from that. Would that same fallout have occurred if they had, been able to solidify the deal? Probably not. You wouldn't have had as many studios sold off or closed or layoffs and such. But who knows if there would have been a more stringent, metric as far as what these games, recoup as far as their expense versus what their sales or relevancy as far as on the charts and things go. But I'll wait for judgment kind of thing. I do expect layoffs to be a thing. To the extent, who knows? I know when it came to Ubisoft looking at a lot of other like private investors and things like that, it would have probably been a much larger layoff pool just because of a lot of the redundancies built into Ubisoft, the way they have a lot of satellite teams that can do additional content and so forth. EA is a little bit more trimmed down, so I don't expect as catastrophic of a layoff pool, but any percentage is going to be enough to ruffle a lot of the community's feathers as far as when it comes to their beloved dev teams or some of the talent within some of those dev teams and such. So we'll see, but I'm trying to keep a positive outlook. So maybe Need for Speed does make a comeback. Maybe Fight Night is something that comes back. Maybe they're a little bit more open to a different monetization model for Madden, which I've kind of said for years, where I would love for Madden to just be a basic order where instead of buying the game each year, you buy the upgraded packs or the lineup updates and such. Whether, let's say the base game is 100 and that covers basically everything up to that year, and then any of the updates are like $19.99 each additional year. In the long run, you'd probably wind up spending about the same amount as opposed to buying Madden each year, but it feels a little bit more grounded if you're doing update packs as opposed to spending a full 70 each year for essentially an update pack kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see how the purse strings are used in this regard with this private takeover kind of thing, and hope for the best. Hopefully this will benefit the EA IPs, but we'll see. And if it means that it goes public again in a few years and somebody like Microsoft or Amazon can step up, maybe that's the play altogether, because once again, private equity is about making money. And if they find they can't make the money from internally from the studios and the products or IPs that they put out now, it'll be basically to flip it and make their profits back that way. Sometimes they monetize the debt, which I hope that's not the case. I haven't looked at what Kushner's previous equity firms have done, but some of those that have gone into the fast food business have basically, or not just fast food, but retail, drain as much funding out of those and then dump them and write off the bankruptcy, but make the profit off of the debt that particular entity has. So let's hope it's not a case like that, but who knows? We'll see. Give them, I would say 2 to 3 years, and we'll see the direction that they head.
Well, you know what? Thanks to Aces 352, we have a couple of comments from Jason Schreier at businesswire.com. And it goes on to say this, folks, and this is where I now have even greater concern. This is the information that you literally were just talking about, Fuzzy. Well, here we go. It's official. EA is going private. According to Jason Schreier, he goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen, the leveraged buyout will be financed by a staggering $20 billion of debt, which likely means some, in air quotes, aggressive cost cutting is ahead for EA in the coming months and years. He goes on to say, a lot of people are understandably focused on the Saudi Arabia and Kushner part of this, but the far bigger immediate impact will come from the new private EA being on the hook for $20 billion in debt. That could mean mass layoffs, more aggressive monetization, and other very big cost-cutting measures. So again, that comes the way of Jason Schreier at businesswire.com. I will link what I have. Thanks to Aces352 for the share, brother. We super appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, folks, this is a big deal, and it's going private. And going private means a lot of different things happening, as opposed to it being a publicly traded company where people who invest have a say. This is a company that's buying it. They're going to make the calls. And I did not know that they were on the hook for $20 billion in debt. Yikes. That means a lot of cost cutting. And I can only listen, whenever you say cost cutting, that's at the cost of human jobs. And you know, AI is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. They don't have to pay these AI robots to do anything. They simply just type it in and it goes. So I would imagine the first thing that's going to get cut is not going to be the IPs. It's not going to be the game development. It's probably going to be the people that actually make the game. So this is another dagger in the heart of the ever-changing industry. And folks, it's getting scary out there. Again, I know that it may not mean a lot to you, fine folks in the chat, and eventually somebody that's going to check this out either on the video part of it or actually check out the live stream. But yeah, the industry is changing. This is why you're seeing all these different things. You know, Microsoft putting games onto PlayStation putting games onto Microsoft, Nintendo. Who knows, right? Like, they're always going to do what they're going to do, but we've talked about them before. Their cost of development is a quarter of what it is for both PlayStation and Microsoft, and they can get away with it. But look, at the end of the day, this is monster-sized breaking news, and you know what? I have real concern for the current employees at EA and how they are going to be affected once this deal is finalized and they start looking into how to cut cost. And that's when human jobs are always at the first of the chopping block. And again, it's just one of those things. This industry is changing. Some would say for the better. I would say for the worse, in my personal opinion, especially when you look back at the last 2 years alone. They've probably had more layoffs in the last 2 years than probably in the last decade. And that's terrifying. So anyone that wants to get into game design, you might want to reconsider that career, because there is no safety, even if a game is doing well. And that's because of what they're looking to do with AI. And that's, again, just terrifying for the industry as a whole. But look, ladies and gentlemen, that's the skinny of the deal. That's the breaking news to open up today's show. We got to get into what happened over the weekend with Mike Ybarra. I got a couple of quotes from him that are a bit shocking for someone of when you consider he is a two-time former C-level executive at Microsoft. To hear his back and forth with the community, it's a bit shocking. I have a lot to say on that, and I don't want to half cock it, but what I do want to do is, again, I want to get this out the way, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. There's a lot going on today, and we have the big breaking news. I had to restructure the show. I wrote an original show. I had to cut some of it out, and we have a giveaway, and I have the winners, ladies and gentlemen, because as Crispy Bomb and Fuzzy Belvedere were dropping their bombs, and I was going back and forth in the chat. I was using the giveaway tool for StreamYards, and I have the 10 winners, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what we're going to do. I am going to announce the winners right now. I will re-announce the winners at the end of the show to remind you, folks, you can get in touch with me 3 ways. You can DM me on the socials. You can email me at the about. Go to the about page of the channel. You'll see that it's my first and last name at gmail.com. Email me. I know some people that have won already may already have the email saved, and or message me on Xbox Live. Do not worry. I make sure that everyone gets their winnings. Even if you're on the outside, again, I don't know, I have the names, but you're going to tell me whether or not you're outside of the country. And if you are, we're one of the few podcasts that actually still reward the listeners outside of the country. We only will give you your prize winnings through PayPal because it protects me and Mrs. Boom. And of course, we will pay all of the transfer fees. You pay for nothing. You simply, if you win, you win. That's it. We take care of everything. So here we go. Oh boy, Hargi Chani. We're gonna get to your super chat here. He's been on fire, Hargi Chani. Look at you. You TTS that Hargi. Okay, so here are the two $50 grand prize winners, and I say grand prize because they're more than the other ones. They're only $50 each, but Elemental PO and Abdel 114. Hey, what do you call it? So. Yes, you are the winners of the $50 gift card. You get one $50 gift card each. Abdel114 and Elemental PO. Please DM me, email me, or message me on Xbox Live. Okay, so here we go. Here are the other 8 winners. Now, these winners are going to receive a $25 gift card to Xbox. Probably should have said that for the $50. They're all Xbox gift cards, ladies and gentlemen. This is an Xbox show, so you would imagine they'd be Xbox gift cards. So here are the 8 winners. Sith Lord has won again. Brother, I think I got to take you out. You keep winning. Nightwolf 3146, Illegal Dad, Vox Metamatic, Smokey, Skywalker UAV, Jet Power, I believe that's how it said, JETPWR, and K/C SEA. You have all won, ladies and gentlemen. So a big congratulations to the winners. I will reread this list on the way out the door. But yes, and again, folks, I just wanted to be clear. The reason why we're able to do the giveaways, well, there are actually 2 things I want to say. It's a little less than it was last year. We normally do 500. The truth of the matter is we couldn't afford it. We're saving for our first home, folks. And as you know, it's tough out here. So we still want to do the giveaways. We just had to kind of scale back a little bit. So when we do Mrs. Boom's in November, it's also going to be 300. But again, that we're able to do that thanks to your kindness. Because if it wasn't for you dropping super chats and becoming channel members and even gifting channel member subs, we wouldn't be able to do the giveaways. This will be, by the time the year is done, we're going to have given away about I want to say about $1,200 throughout the year. And I mean, again, it's not as much as it was the year before, but that's because everything is expensive and we do what we can. You know what I'm saying? We're never going to stop the giveaways. We just have to kind of scale them back a little bit to be able to make them more affordable for us so we can, of course, still do them. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Mrs. Boom and I do humbly appreciate it more than you could possibly imagine. But gentlemen, we got to get into the Mike Ybarra thing. This is one of those situations where there's a pattern, right? Now, look, like I said in the opening, I'm not going to curse at the guy. I don't know Mike personally, but I got to say, for someone of his stature, and I understand he's no longer working for Microsoft. He's no longer working for Xbox. He's no longer the president of Blizzard. He's still someone that understands the business down to the grinding of it, creating games, the cost of it, the manpower, how he understands everything from the asshole to the elbow when it comes to gaming. There's nothing that's going to surprise this man. So when he goes out and he makes commentary For instance, let me pull this up over here. So this happened last week. Now, last week should have been a celebratory day or at least a week for Xbox. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is the fact that they were at the Tokyo Game Show in a really big way, and they showed off a teaser trailer for Forza Horizon 6, which got everyone in this chat and on this panel super excited because, especially Fuzzy, we've always talked about them going to Japan, and it has been confirmed that yes, they are going to Japan. So that's big news. So, like he has done many times before, Mike Ybarra likes to kick the hornet's nest, and I don't understand why he does it. Again, some people say other things. I'm not gonna be disrespectful. What I will say about him is that he's a bitter man, and it's blatantly apparent that that is what's going on here. I've heard some other commentary and other classifications. I'm not going to say those things. Okay, what I'm going to say is going to be respectful, but it's going to be pointed. Now, last week he goes on to say this in his tweet: "There's no better racing game than Forza Horizon," and of course he's 100% right. But then he goes on to say, "Not sure why why the expected delay launch on PlayStation. Just launch it everywhere at the same time. Continued confusing messaging, in or out, not both. Hashtag, well, more parentheses, I'll play on Steam, so I don't care, but let the studio make money." Now, this is not only half-cocked, it's egregious. And it's egregious because he knows the business. And of course, he's being disingenuous, as he's done many times before. And the fact that he has been removed from Microsoft not once, but twice, is probably why he's bitter. And at every opportunity, both him and others like Sean Layden continue to take shots at Xbox. Now, Sean is a PlayStation guy, and we're not going to really get into what he had to say because, Sean is always going to be Sean Layden. But Mike Ybarra is a former employee of Microsoft times 2. Now, why he was removed from Xbox originally, I couldn't tell you. Why he was removed as the president of Blizzard when Microsoft became the owner of Activision Blizzard King, I could not tell you. I can tell you what I've heard, but it's not good. So I'm not going to make mention of it. Needless to say, he no longer works for the company. So you would imagine that someone that has been removed not once, but twice, gentlemen, it would be a little bit bitter. So again, over the weekend, he goes, okay, where this originally starts is IGN does an article where, and I'm going to read the IGN post from X, and it says, "Sony is calling the PlayStation 5 generation of consoles its most successful to date after reaching a milestone of 136 billion in sales so far, just under 5 years into its lifespan." That's a lot of money. $136 billion on the PlayStation 5. Now, it doesn't say profit. It doesn't say, they made it. It said what it said. Now, Mike Ybarra quote tweets it and says, "But hey, the console market isn't a successful business. It is if you. I guess he meant to say if it's up to you and you do it right." So someone responded to Mike and they went, the bitter X. And he starts going back and forth with the community. And I'm only going to read one of the quotes because it's a lot of it's gross. And we don't like to present that on this channel. He simply says, "Your console is dead," as if them being an Xbox player. Now, look. Is that the worst thing in the world to say? Well, I mean, he didn't outright curse him out or anything, but I gotta be honest with you. Coming from a background in gaming as long as he has, where he just held the position of president of Blizzard. Look, let me just say this. This is as pointed as I'm going to get. I'm embarrassed for him. I'm embarrassed for him as a man, and I'm going to tell you why. every day that I come in front of this camera, I put my best foot forward. Now, granted, we are tiny in regards to size, 16.2K, whoop-de-doo. But you want to know something? We got companies that invite us to things, fly us out to locations to play games, give us things to try out. We're working with a couple of companies behind the scene, which we're not ready to talk about. My partnership with Volari, it's doing very well for us. We're doing very well for them. And every time I put my best foot forward, more opportunities knock at the front door. What I will never do is act like a complete asshole online. Pardon the French. And that's exactly how he has been behaving, like a 12-year-old. And again, some of the commentary that went back and forth with the community, I'm not going to read because some of it is egregious. And again, we don't promote hate or any kind of that rhetoric here. We do get pointed, which we're going to get on this podcast right now on this particular topic because it's worthy of a conversation. And it's worthy of a conversation because the community wants to talk about it. So I'm here to not only represent Double Barrel Gaming, but the community on hand. So, Crispy Bomb, let's get into this because, again, this is shocking behavior. I'm not going to say that I'm surprised because Mike Ybarra has done this many, many times before. So this is not surprising. But, when you say things like that, you make yourself really small. And for someone that is a multimillionaire, we know that he is because after, he left Xbox, he got a big paycheck for becoming what was his dream job. And that was the president of Blizzard. Obviously, with the buyout and him being the president of Blizzard, he had stocks all over the place. So he walked away loaded. And every time I see him in social media or on social media acting a fool, I kind of wonder, is this some sort of a cry for help? But look at me, look at me, look at me. Brother, you are a millionaire. You go spend your money. Go buy a yacht. Go on some exotic trips. Do things like that. Don't console war. I think you're supposed to be above that, considering that you were just a former C-level executive. And I just think that it's embarrassing. And I will say this again. As a man, I'm embarrassed for him because he's acting as if he's a 12-year-old and not how old he is. I'm 55. If I have to act like that, close down the channel. Pack it up. Let's go. Crispy, let's get your thoughts on this, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen him say a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of weird things. Always taking shots at Xbox, Microsoft. There's been many executives that don't work for that company anymore that take shots at it, but it seems to have the same type of rhetoric. And, I believe somewhere in my great receipts, I probably caught him saying, like, I'm not a console warrior or something like that. Well, you just disproved that. I have the receipt thanks to other people, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. He clearly has disdain for the company, regardless of him becoming a millionaire from it. I would say it's engagement farming, but it doesn't seem logical unless he really wants people's attention. That's kind of like a child mentality. Like, I need attention. I'm going to stir the pot. He doesn't work there anymore. He has no clue what the culture is anymore. Okay, he could talk to whoever he wants, but it's probably another salty person that just wants the paycheck. These are things that happen within corporate America especially, but even in any business. You're going to have somebody that does not like the company, and you're going to have other people that love the company. So if you look at it in those terms, I just feel like I wouldn't say a cry for help. I think he's bored. And he loves messing with, because he probably looks at every Xbox gamer as a fanboy now. Even though a lot of us just play games and talk about stuff and try not to be, like poo-pooing everyone all the time. But apparently he enjoys doing that. I also don't see him really calling out much other stuff unless it involves Microsoft. So, I welcome people showing the receipts of him talking about Sony in such ways or Nintendo in such ways. There's been plenty of bad news on those ends. You know what I mean? How about the acquisition, stuff like that? the comments aren't probably very scathing as he has done with Xbox Microsoft. So kind of just proves his point that maybe it's a little bit of fanboyism now that turned from just being salty about, being, I'm pretty sure, fired from at least the second time. He was, hey, time to go. There's the door. You got your money. Walk away. And now he continues to, I would say, not walk away graciously and want to step on the company he worked for many, many years.
I mean, it's a great point of view, and obviously that's what it is. Yeah, maybe the cry for help thing is being a little bit facetious on my part, because what is he really crying for? Everyone knows who he is, and obviously people remember the last thing that you did, and when you act like a jackass, people are going to remember that. He doesn't care because he's a millionaire, right? He doesn't worry about money. He's not worrying about going to the grocery and eggs being $3 more than they were, 2 years ago. He doesn't care. So he comes to social media, and I actually think he looks for it, to be honest with you, at this point. And again, if he does continue to act like an ass, we're no longer going to talk about it, because we're not going to give him the play that he wants. I just wanted to talk about it because it was back-to-back instances. First, it was with the Forza Horizon comment, which obviously, and again, this is why I don't take him serious, and I know he's being facetious or just a complete a-hole, Fuzzy, because he understands business, right? He understands the development of business. And someone like, for instance, Playground Games. Playground Games is going to get help on this game from Turn 10 Studios. And we have a quote from them, and we're going to get into that. We're going to segue into into actually talking about video games, and that will be Forza Horizon 6. But what we do know, and I think this is pretty common knowledge, is that they're not a multi-plat studio. They are an Xbox Game Studios company, and they make games for Xbox first and foremost, and in that development process, make games for dual releasing on PC. Now, I know there were a lot of people on PlayStation that were very salty about this, but folks, can we just put on the business hats for a second here, including Mike Ybarra, and say, well, if they're already developing for the two ports, they're literally making it for PC, they're making it for Xbox, they're gonna have to make a port at some point for PlayStation. Now, the game isn't made, so they didn't get port help like they did for Forza Horizon 5, because the game is being created. And FYI, why would you announce it when they just a couple of months ago released Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5, which, by the way, is one of the best-selling games on PlayStation in 2025 to kind of cut sales. You put out a trailer, you do a dev direct in January, you get PlayStation players who are going to look over and either buy it on PC because they don't want to wait, go out and buy an Xbox, or just sit on it and wait for it to come to PlayStation 5, potentially in 27, because obviously we don't expect this game until the holiday of 2026, which is probably going to be October or November. So which would do what? Set up a spring release for this game on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro, where it will be done to work on those consoles in spring of 27. I mean, I don't have a business degree. I'm not a business analyst, and I'm not in the business of gaming and how to fund it. I think that makes all the sense in the world. Why he would be disingenuous, well, we know why. But let's get your thoughts on this, Fuzzy.
I mean, for a while, he's been on the pay no mind list for me, primarily because of some of the stuff I've heard in the background in relation to Game Pass and him and his I guess, disagreements with Phil's approach on things. You would think he would have learned the first time he was shown the door, but he didn't. And I'm pretty sure he figured he's in the right for whatever reason. Kudos to him. I would say focus on your gambling company that you're running now. That's probably in your better interests. Being vocal against your former employer isn't winning you any fans for your current employer. So it is what it is. But I don't know. I'm the type of person where if I leave an employer, that's it. I might still be in communication with people that are still there, but I have a life outside of that, nor would I want to bother, even discussing that former employer, whether it was on me leaving on good terms or bad terms. I don't hold a grudge because I think carrying that negative energy into whatever you're doing now, you know, weighs in on what you're doing now, and it will eventually cause that to be a load of crap or whatever. But it is what it is. But to say that the console is dead, well, if it's dead, then why do you even bother talking about it? It's like I laugh at people that complain about something that's supposedly that they have no interest in, but they're still complaining about it. It's like, well, are you that bored that this is all that you focus on? It's like you would think if you're all about PlayStation, just play PlayStation. It's like, and it's funny because the first time he got let go, he decided to stream on Mixer from his PlayStation. It's like, really? This is what we're going to do now? You could stream on Twitch with your PlayStation, but no, let's stream on Mixer with my PlayStation instead of his PC because he claims to be a PC gamer, but he's doing that kind of BS behind the scenes, and he thought that that would be okay, or maybe he figured this is a way I could be the microaggressions or whatever, but he's that type of dude that if he's your boss, great, deal with it, get your paycheck and be happy. If he's your coworker, don't bother having lunch with him. Don't bother talking at the water cooler with him because he is that guy that's always going to nitpick and be a downer and be that cloud around the office that brings others down and winds up having where the morale drops. Like he is not an uplifter, he is a downer, and I'll leave it at that. But as far as gaming, if Xbox was dead, then why is there so much media focus on it? Why is there so much attention on what they're doing? When it comes to Forza Horizon coming to PlayStation, I said it before, it's probably best that they wait, especially for those that spent the extra money on the PlayStation 5 Pro. If you want it to actually have some upgrades or updates in relation to your hardware, I would say give them time. It's not like they are intentionally not launching it day and date. It does take time because it is easier to code an Xbox to PC specs or between those two platforms as opposed to PlayStation. But we'll see if Fable is a day and date. If Fable's a day and date, then what I'm saying has a lot more relevance because of what I've heard before. If it's not day and date, then maybe there is a behind the scenes change as far as the communication on what's going to be launched on other platforms. Maybe they're holding the line, not doing day and date until PlayStation starts doing day and date. Who knows? In any case, I would say if you're a PlayStation guy and you already picked up Forza Horizon 5, get as much out of that game in preparation for 6, and just hope that the pisser updates or upgrades are worth the wait type of deal. I think they will be, in all honesty, but it is what it is. It just seems like for those that want to scrutinize what Xbox is doing with their release schedule on other platforms, seems like they were never interested in Xbox anyway. It's more like, well, the whole slate's coming, but it's not day and date. Why isn't it day and date? Like, make up your mind. No, it's you guys make up your mind. Either buy into the Xbox ecosystem or stay on your current platform and then await the games when they come. I don't see why it's so difficult, but it is what it is. I've rambled enough on him.
No, I mean, listen, everyone had great points. And again, it does kind of lead all the way back to if Xbox is dead, then why bother to keep bringing it up? That's a phenomenal point of view. But look, at the end of the day, Mike should just stop talking. And again, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but he has been making himself look a little small on the socials. And console warring, even though he said he's not a console warrior, is I don't think it does his reputation any good. And you know what? To be honest with you, he probably doesn't even care because, again, I keep going all the way back to the money thing. he's loaded, and then maybe he's just bored. I don't know who said it, but maybe that's really what it comes down to. I have millions in the bank, so I'm just going to be a D. You know what? All right, fine. But again, I didn't, and I will not bring him up again, no matter what he does, because unless he comes at me personally, and then we can have a conversation. But I don't think I think this is channel's way too small for him to give a flying shit. But again, it's a conversation that the community wanted to have, and again, yes, it was pointed, but we're not going to be disrespectful. Again, he is a former C-level executive that should know better. And it just, I will continue to say, he makes himself very small when he acts the way he does. And that's going to be the end of that. But look, ladies and gentlemen, we have another topic to get into. Before we get there, I got to catch up on Super Chats. Now, Grant, real quick, Illegal Dad and Vox Metamatic asked for me to re-roll their prizes. And so thank you so much for your honesty. We definitely appreciate it. Congratulations, and thank you for passing it on. The two new winners, Ducato and Adidas 20. You fine gentlemen are winners of $25 Xbox digital gift cards. And of course, I will reread the list once I am done, once we're done with the podcast. But congratulations to Adidas 20 and Ducato for winning, and that's thanks to Illegal Dad and Vox Matematic forwarding their prize for a re-roll. So thank you, gentlemen, for your honesty. Congratulations to the two new winners. And let me just catch up on Super Chats, ladies and gentlemen. There's been quite a few of them. And then we, of course, will get to the last story. And this is the one that I can't wait to talk about because, yes, Forza Horizon in Japan. Holy, the gaming gods have answered our prayers, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into it. But Adidas 20, who drops a very generous $2 super chat. He says, salute to you, kind sir. Congratulations again. He has also been a channel member for 32 months, and it says, happy birthday, Dr. Pepper. Brother, that's very kind. I had a great weekend. It was awesome. It started Thursday, ended Sunday. I hung out with friends, family, Mrs. Boom. We had great food. I had arroz con pollo on Saturday, which is my favorite. I had totones along with it, with just a pinch of garlic, not too much because the garlic pours out of me if I have too much of it. And it comes out of my pores. It's the craziest thing. Like Mrs. Boom could like, my God, you ate garlic. I could smell you in the other room. So I try not to eat too much garlic because the vampires would stay away. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. My family's always so generous to me. And I also got my pre-order in for the series for the Ally X. So again, I have a Best Buy card for that reason, so I'm very happy about that. And it was a really good weekend. So thank you so much for all the birthday wishes, ladies and gentlemen. We also have Sith Lord, who's been a channel member for a very long time. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Sound the siren in Donsville for Chase at Kansas." I guess that's racing. I say I'm not a NASCAR guy, but I did meet Junior a couple of once or twice. Very, very quiet man. He's very, very quiet, Junior, but he's a gentleman. I will say that. We also have Nightwolf 3186 drops a very generous $5 super chat. It says, "Accelerate innovation. Sure hope that means they'll change the Madden engine to something more modern. Can we imagine an Unreal Engine type Madden?" I mean, that would be, you know what? I would like them to lose the license. And I would like an actual 2K NFL football. Do you remember the last 2K that was $20 and it destroyed Madden that year? Still one of the best 2K football games ever on the Dreamcast, no less. I think Randy Moss was on the cover, if I'm not mistaken. That was $20. That's still my video game football of all time. Thunderdome Gaming Society has been a channel member for a whopping 18 months. He goes on to say, "Heads up if you're getting the Xbox ROG Ally X. There is no case included, but I have my eyes on the official case from Asus. It looks nice." Yeah, I saw that, which is a bit disappointing for the amount of money. It really should have. It's fine. It is what it is. But we also have Oscar Wheat in the chat, drops a very generous $5 super chat. Oscar goes on to say they might they just might sell those NFL rights so other people could make NFL games. Yeah, EA does pay a very hefty penny to keep that exclusive to them with the NFL. I don't know when was the last time they re-upped the deal, and I don't know how long those deals are. They may be 3 or 5 years, and maybe they're not going to want to spend that money because you got to remember when you equate $20 billion in debt, they may not want to pay. I mean, they'll pay the fee they'll license out the NFL, but they may not pay to keep it only to them. That's a really good thought, Oscar. We also have here Haruki Chani. He drops not one but two super chats. The first one of $2 says, another month, another Xbox is dead story. You want your brother? If it was so dead, why do they keep talking about it? Shout out to Destin Legary, who just did an incredible video where I think it's I don't remember the title off the top of my head. I'm listening to it like right now, where he says all people want to do is talk about Xbox. It's something to that effect. And he's right. Last week, they really took the zeitgeist of the conversation. Don't get me wrong. I said, PlayStation showed up, and I think Wolverine looks amazing, and I'm very excited for that. I don't care what anyone says. And P.S., by the way, it was confirmed that both Wolverine and Spider-Man are in the same universe. I would not be surprised to see Spider-Man make an appearance. That would be dope, and I hope that it actually happens. We also have here another $5 super chat from Haruki Chan. He says, maybe Xbox can buy some IP from EA to help pay pay down the debt. Maybe, let me see, maybe even a better Game Pass partnership. Oh, wait, they're dead. Can't buy anything. Oh, my goodness. The slander, but it's true. You know what I'd love to, dude? You know what I would love? And maybe I got to make this a topic so I kind of really, put it out to the universe. Maybe the universe will answer back. They should buy that Titanfall IP. I'm sorry. If EA doesn't want to work on that, look, don't throw the virtual tomatoes at me, ladies and gentlemen. Please hold them for someone else. But if Xbox were to get their hands on that IP, there are ways where you can make it free to play and not make it gross. Or you can make a pay-for-it game like they do with Call of Duty and monetize it that way. I mean, again, I'm not going to give away the billion-dollar idea because I want Microsoft to hire me and pay me the six figures. Maybe I could start yelling at people if I have millions in the bank. No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. But shout out to Mac22 in the chat. He drops, ladies and gentlemen, a very generous $2 super chat. He says, Mike Ybarra, could that man be any more butthurt? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, he's not new to the business. So when he says, irate things, that's because he's acting irate. But Fantas Archer drops a very generous $5 super chat. Fantas Archer goes on to say, what's funny about Ybarra is even if Xbox was dying, it won't happen overnight, and the executives he's mad at might retire before that happens. Hashtag let it go. No, you're not wrong, brother. I mean, he obviously has a thing for Phil. Him and Phil didn't leave on good terms. At least that's the rumor. I mean, again, folks, I don't know personally. I wasn't in the room. I've heard some things which I won't repeat because I don't have them on good authority, but it was ugly. Let's just say that. And that's probably why he's as aggravated and pissed off as he is and bitter. That's ultimately what it comes down to. The broke boy Lewis in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. Will goes on to say, if Xbox was quote unquote dead, Microsoft would have dropped it a while back. They don't keep things that aren't making them money. Zune, Mixer, the Windows Phone come to mind. Yeah, all great points. Which, by the way, Zune was so ahead of its time. Mrs. Boom still has her. She actually has two. She has the Boombox one and she has the HD one. She freaking loves the Zune. And so do I. I actually had just recently, I sold it privately and I got a pretty penny for it. I had the Halo 3 Zune edition and it was mint. I had everything. I got a nice chunk of money for it. Splendiferous drops a very generous $2 from chat and says, boom, support for sure. I work nights, so I listen. Brother, that's very kind of you for the generosity and the very kind words, Splendiferous. We super appreciate you here. Music 72 has been a channel member for a whole year. Music, thank you so much for the continued support, bro. He goes on to say 1 year. Woo-hoo. Keep up the great work, Boom. That's very kind of you. We appreciate it, man. And lastly, our brother from Hawaii has done it so many times, I've lost count. BoomStick in the chat has gifted 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. That's very kind of you, bro. Thank you so much for the generosity. And we appreciate the support. And again, you donate it almost every day, bro. That's very expensive, and we definitely appreciate it. But gentlemen, we got to get into Forza Horizon 6, and I'm very excited for this because, one, like Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft finally went to Japan. Well, this is a location that I think, and I don't think it's a stretch from what I'm about to say. Based on how big and how open world Mexico was for Forza Horizon 5, I can only, in my imagination, think on how big, how bombastic, how spectacular Japan is going to be for Forza Horizon 6. And what I love about this is, at the beginning of the year, a couple months ago, might have been 2 months ago, we had some pretty ugly news surrounding Turn 10 Studios. We know that there is no Forza Motorsport for the foreseeable future. We know that they had some layoffs. And one of the things that I immediately thought of, and again, this is before we had the confirmation that it was going to be going to Japan, where their racing scene is very different than the racing scene here. And it's very drift heavy. And we know that because you've seen them in films, you've seen them on the socials, you've seen them on the Instagrams and things of that nature. Japan has a massive racing scene. And you know what? There is only one franchise I could imagine that could match it pound for pound, and that's Forza Horizon. And they're going to be in Japan for their next iteration, and I could not be any more happier. But you know who I'm even more happy for, gentlemen? It's Turn 10 Studios. And we have a quote here from the official Forza Motorsport on X, and it goes on to say this: whether you're drifting or racing around Fuji Kyoto, or keep your eyes open far and wide to take in those brilliant environmental details, such as the 3 large Shinto signs or shrines, the 14 torii gates, or the 86 smaller shrines that are placed around the 16.5 kilometer track. There's also 18 gondolas flying around. Now, I'm going to go first here to Fuzzy Belvedere because that really is specific, Fuzzy. I mean, look, one of the things that you will notice about Forza Horizon over some of the other racing games, more specifically Motorsport, is as the player, you can stop and admire your environments, right? That's the fun part about the Forza Horizon series. And as you've seen me drive before, you can roll off cliffs to get that very, very stingy, very well-placed sign that you have to do 3 rolls and a flip to finally hit. It's a nightmare, ladies and gentlemen, but I like collecting those damn signs, and it's like an addiction. I have a problem. Yeah. And they're usually achievement-based, so I have to get them because I want the goddamn achievement. But the thing that has me more excited about this is not the daytime racing. It's going to be the nighttime racing. And we know that they're going to have the changing seasons and the days and nights thanks to Okami13_, where he put out a bit of a blurb. Now, some of the stuff we already knew. 1 or 2 things we didn't, ladies and gentlemen. So he goes on to say this on his official tweet, which I will add, of course, to the show notes. So if you want to click on it, and again, you should be following Okami 13 underscore, a phenomenal community member. He says Forza Horizon 6 officially confirmed for Japan, coming 2026 for Xbox and PC. PlayStation 5 confirmed for post-launch. And this is where it gets awesome. Changing seasons. Now, we've already had that, so it's not new, but the seasons in Japan are going to be stunning to drive around in. It also has Tokyo City featuring neon lights and towering buildings. And you know something, Fuzzy and Crispy and chat? Look, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm such a big nerd for this stuff. I can't even begin to tell you. Whenever I think of city racing, at least for me personally, and I know there's going to be a lot of OGs that appreciate this, I think of Project Gotham Racing and how amazing that was. And that ideology, ladies and gentlemen, is going to come to Tokyo. And I can't freaking wait to see the sights, the sounds, the neon lights, the drifting. It is going to be a party from start to finish. That's coming next year. And interestingly enough, he finally talks about more details coming early 2026. Now, that has been confirmed. And what's interesting there, and I'm sure this is going to be a topic for another podcast, think about this, folks. This year is the year of Obsidian, right? They have 3 games that will be out by the time they finish. Avowed, Grounded 2, and, of course, The Outer Worlds 2. Amazing year for Obsidian. Next year is going to be the year of Playground because they not only have Forza Horizon 6 coming, there's also going to be Fable. Could you imagine a developer direct January to start off the year with both Fable and Forza Horizon 6? Oh my God, mind blown. But let's keep it focused. I'm sorry, folks. I'm rambling. I'm excited. I'm excitable like that. Fuzzy, I'm going to you first because you are Mr. Racer. You are Mr. Forza, and this is a big deal. This is a real big deal for Xbox. It's a real big deal for Forza. It's even a bigger deal for you because I think your channel is going to explode once this game comes out and you start making videos again about Forza. Let's get your thoughts on some of the new information, but more importantly, the fact that Turn 10 Studios is and has been confirmed to be helping, especially in the drifting aspect of the design of this game.
Oh yeah. Well, they recently released that track for Forza Motorsport, where it was kind of like a returning classic as far as like their fictional tracks, but having it where you can drift down the mountain, which they were key on showing that mountain in the artwork when they did the announcement and stuff. I can only imagine what it's going to be like drifting down that mountain and having either races or point competitions as far as like how many drift points you can get down the mountain while drifting. That's going to be a big like love letter to a lot of the community that's into drifting. I'm not the best at drifting, but having with Turn 10 helping them with the mechanics, it might make it where it's not as arcadey as it is currently, although it still works fine. And the range of adjustment as far as whether you want to do the brake balance adjustment or just add more horsepower. Nothing works better to help rotate that car down the turn than giving it more gas and more horsepower and less grippier tires and things along those lines. So I think that's going to be a big help as far as the tire selection, as far as the tuning aspect. But going to Japan in general, the car culture there, the JDM scene, the tuner scene in general, which I'm kind of hoping, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the bazooka motorcycles, I'm hoping they may surprise us with motorcycles in this one. But if they don't, that's totally fine. Having the K cars, which are the small, much smaller cars that right now, I think the only game that has some of them in it is GT7. So having a lot of those smaller tuner cars where you're basically pushing those 4 cylinders to the limits, or even some of them are 3-cylinder setups and things. But having the smaller cars in those tighter streets, as far as like the alleyways or back paths and stuff in and out of the city, the neon lights, the season changes with the cherry blossoms and stuff, like all of this is going to be not just a photo taker or game photographer's dream. It's going to be like pretty much all of the arcade racers out there that have been wanting something like this from a Need for Speed or a return of Midnight Club and stuff like that from Rockstar, this is going to be that game that we've all been waiting for. And just knowing that Playground Game, with all the stuff that they've done in the past, from the seasons, from making it kind of like a car PG kind of deal where you can build up certain cars, not just the parts themselves, but unlock like drift points and unlock points as far as like how much money you can collect from the car, or unlock special cars from the car that you use the most, kind of thing. I'm looking forward to this all around, but I think the big thing is going to be how they size out the map. Like previously, like when it came to Forza Horizon 3, that was a fairly big map, and I think that was pushing the limits of what the Xbox One could do. And then when they got to the point of doing Forza Horizon, even Forza Horizon 5, I don't think we've seen the full potential of that, because remember, it was still a cross-gen title. It still had to play well on the Xbox One. So with that being said, I think we could probably see a map maybe 2 or 3 times the size of what they have for Mexico, with it being only on the series consoles, and PS5 being a next-gen console when it eventually comes over there. I think we're going to be in for a surprise as far as the size of the city, the size of the highway racing, the size of the mountainscape, as far as like the drifting and stuff like that, which, by the way, with the mountainside, I'm pretty sure SUVs are going to be a big part of this as well. So you're going to have your Monteros and your Toyota. I can't remember the name of the Hilux, I believe it's called, for Toyota. You're going to have a lot of those types of vehicles to be able to take the shortcut down the mountain as opposed to drifting around, kind of deal. So looking forward to all of that stuff. But man, just the car scene in general. I mean, yes, once you've seen a GTR, you've kind of seen them all. Well, some people might say that, but there's so many unique ones that they've had over the years, all the way as far as from the ones that I pay the most attention to, from the R32 to the R34 generation. And then now they're doing the last of the Godzilla as far as the current gen GTRs and stuff like that. I can't wait to see how many different variations they have. And, the Z car, basically the Fair Lady over there, all the variations of that, the Sylvia, and just a ton of other, like the Evo, even though I don't think they call them Evos over there, but just the variation on all the all-wheel drive turboed cars that they've had. I think this is going to be tuner overload, and I'm hoping they expand on the tuner parts that they offer for this game. But like, I'm rambling now because I'm also excited, but there's just so many things. Like I'm hoping, and this is just like totally a side thing that's not even pertinent to the locale, but I'm hoping we finally get beards, because I kind of want my avatar for the game to have a beard as well. But heard some things about what the character aspect might be like. Hoping we get a little bit more freedom as far as what we can do in or outside the cars. We'll see. I'm looking forward to the Dev Direct early next year to see if we get more details on that type of stuff. I would also like to see something similar with Turn 10 helping, that garage layout like they have in Motorsport, where you could take like your 3 favorite cars and have it where you can show those off and walk around your garage and stuff like that. But I guess the other big thing, and Pong had hinted at this as well, and we talked about it on the shop last night, the car clubs. Like, considering there was a real Midnight Club in Japan, if you've, I know a lot of people think of the Rockstar game, but look up the lore for the Midnight Club in Japan and how that started and how there were tryouts. You would have to actually show that you were worthy of joining that club. And if they can take some of that lore and incorporate that into the car clubs that are already in Forza, and make it where we possibly have car meets again, like car shows where the underglow lights, the spectacular artwork on the paint schemes and things like that. I want to see a lot of that type of aspect in there. And then the potential for the DLC. Sure, we've had Lego. Sure, we've had Hot Wheels. I think it's time we have a Fast and Furious DLC again, or something along those lines. But or Pong brought this up as well. Initial D, considering that anime and stuff, like especially considering the drifting aspect is going to be a heavy focus. There's so much potential, and if they can just touch on a little bit of all of that, I think this will be a game that's going to be hard pressed to, lure people away from this when a Forza Horizon 7 comes out. But we'll see. But yeah, there's just so much that I know that they're going to be able to deliver on, and just a handful of things I would love to see them incorporate into this, because the street racing scene in Japan, the tuning scene, the JDM cars, all of that, and that being the focal point, because they always focus on the types of cars from that region. I can't wait to see what this looks like. It's going to be an awesome game. Just the car collection itself, like they're going to probably have 700 cars, more than half of them from that region. Yeah, I think this is going to be the game of the generation kind of thing, as far as for car enthusiasts, arcade racing enthusiasts, even those that want to do the sim and turn off all the nannies and things like that, so you don't have traction control and stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of people just, like you said, taking a break, driving slow through some of the streets of Japan or downtown Tokyo, taking pictures, just driving through the traffic, like the no hesi scene as far as dodging in and out of traffic. I really want to see them,
dude.
Yeah, tie into that. But yeah, I've taken up enough time. Want to hear what Crispy has to say, but man, I'm so excited for this game.
Well, it's something we've been asking for, right? And they're finally going to deliver. And I think that the technology that they are, using is going to be a big boost for this game. I think the map is going to be bigger than it's ever been. It might come off as the biggest map in the franchise's history. Japan is massive. I could only imagine what the DLCs are going to incorporate. That's something else to think about as well, because again, it's going to be heavily drift based. It's not going to be the whole game is going to be drifting. It's not. It's going to be your standard, Forza Horizon game that you know and love, but it's going to have a big drift scene. And I could imagine some of the drift tracks that they're going to add to this thing. It's going to be phenomenal. Crispy, let's get your final thoughts on this, brother. This is a really big deal. I think it obviously was the announcement of the show for Tokyo Game Show. I think that it captivated the audience on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and every gamer ilk was talking about this. This was trending. It's a really big deal. It is one of the biggest racing franchises in gaming currently. And you know that because a game that's 4+ years old is tracking to be one of the best-selling games on PS5. That's a really big deal. They had announced 45 million players before it went to PlayStation 5, and now it's over 50 million players for that game. That is astounding. But let's talk Forza Horizon 6 in Japan, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one that a lot of people, I would say even like more in the generation I'm in. I'm a little younger than you guys. Sorry if people didn't know that. But for me, when I played games, I always wanted those type of cars, like the Skylines, I mean, WRX I'd always grab, but I know that's probably not used as much as I would think over there. But like, there's just a lot of all-wheel drive cars that I feel like have been like just forgot about over like these past few generations of racing games. Like, there's so much like car depth there that I don't know. It's probably going to get me back in a racing game again after all these years. You got to understand, a lot of us guys, we grew up with like, we'd have 3-4 in like a year to choose from that just came out. So, racing has, kind of subsided a bit, and it's kind of exciting to have them go to such a place that it goes back in me as like Tokyo Drift and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was such an interesting concept, and like I think that movie's underrated. I don't care what anybody says. Like I thought the racing scenes in that movie were just spectacular, but at least for the time. And I think we look at that, and like for somebody like me that grew up in that, like these are the types of vehicles, the areas that I want to see. Like, yes, Mexico is great, but there's a lot of open area. Like, let's have those tight windows. You're probably going to see tons of clips of people doing some crazy drifts around. It's going to sell itself, as I like to say, because of the setting and how vast it is. The opportunities are endless. And I think, I mean, to be honest, I think Fuzzy's right onto it that this is probably going to be a massive map because they want to put all of these great set pieces in there and really have like this moment in racing. Because I think, like, realistically, we've all wanted this one for a long time. Like, if you're gonna do a country, do Japan. Like, and that's I think it's just exciting because it's getting me like amped up to play a racing game much more than I have in years. So it's good to see.
It absolutely is. And again, this is going to be a ginormous celebration when it releases next year. Again, we don't know the official release date or even the month. We know it's coming out next year. That's been confirmed. We know that Fable is releasing next year. So they're probably going to have to bookend these things. Like very similar to what happened with Obsidian and putting two ginormous RPGs on each end of the year. You opened up with Avowed, you're going to close out with The Outer Worlds 2, and you got Grounded 2 in the middle. It worked out perfectly. Obviously, Fable was delayed from this year to next year, so I can see, and again, this is me just spitballing, folks. You get a February or March release for Fable, which you're going to have a direct. And again, this is a rumor. We don't have it confirmed. They haven't announced anything yet, but if we go by the numbers, there'll be a January developers direct. And obviously the two biggest games, well, I mean, there's a lot of big games coming next year, but two games coming from one studio in Playground Games. You're going to get Fable. You're going to get Forza Horizon 6. You get Fable first. That comes out to bookend your year. And kind of like standard fare, you just follow the pattern of what they or when they have released the Forza games, the Forza Horizon games, I should say. It's usually October or November. So it would bookend the year great. It'd give room for Halo. It would give room for Gears of War E-Day. It would give room for what could be Clockwork Revolution. Obviously, if Forza Horizon 6 takes up the October slot, then November would be slated for Modern Warfare 4. I mean, their next year is going to be bonkers. And we're going to have Forza Horizon 6 leading the charge in freaking Japan. Like, holy cow, we are such lucky gamers. And again, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, everything is included, ladies and gentlemen. Winner, winner, chicken dinner for anyone that is subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. But look, this has been a great show. We opened up with the big breaking news, and we already kind of slowed down the show a little bit, talking about what went on with former Microsoft executive. And then we had party time, because of course we're all excited. You can hear it in our voices. The chat's going crazy. We're all super excited for this game. This is what we've all been wanting, and we're going to get it in spades. But listen, let me catch up on Super Chats. And there's been a lot of them today. So big thank you to everyone that has, obviously gifted subs or have been, just so generous here. But let me see. Okay, I guess if I could catch up. Okay, so we have here Dan the Man Cunningham. Dan, thank you so much for being here, brother. And thank you for the generosity and very kind words. Dan goes on to say, no one does more for the community than Boom. Show your appreciation by hitting the like button and subscribe button. It's the least you can do. Thank you, kind sir. That is nice of you to say. Yes, folks, we have officially crossed 16.2, which means that we're under 800. And I'm being facetious. We're like 790 away from 17K. We're not hitting that this year, but at some point we'd love to hit 17, 18, maybe 25. Do I think in my lifetime we're ever going to get into the 50s, 100s? No. I'd have to have someone come on the show like for instance, like Drake would happen to just be in the chat, like, hey, call me on, we'll talk about video games. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's happened for other people. I don't think it's going to happen for me, but we're going to do it the right way, folks. We're going to come out here every day, 5 days a week, and we're going to be honest. We're going to have fun. We're going to be community first. And if it takes us 10 more years to get to those numbers, then that's what it's going to take us, folks. I'd love to be able to say we're getting 500 subs a month. We're not. We're lucky if we get 100. But you know what? We don't care because we're doing it the right way. We're putting our noses to the grindstone, and we're delivering content 5 days a week, sometimes some extra content in there. and we're having fun doing it. And that's really what it comes down to. And we have you to thank for that, because if it wasn't for you that are in the chat right now, will watch on the video or watch on the replay, we wouldn't have Double Barrel Gaming. We wouldn't even have a channel, and no one would be listening to us. So we are always going to do it the right way. We're always going to be grateful for all the generosity and the support. And of course, this is why we do it, folks. We do it for you. And we appreciate everything that you guys and gals do for us. We also have here, let's see. Okay. Gamer by Choice drops. Oh, wow. He's been a channel member, folks. I honestly think, I say this all the time, this might be as long as the channel's been around. 72 months. Holy matrimony. Gamer by Choice, thank you for the continued support. That is insane. He goes on to say this: happy belated birthday, and I enjoy your content. I usually listen live when I am working, but you are a blessing to the gaming community. Stay blessed. Brother, that is very generous of you to say. Listen, folks, I love doing this. I work on the show. When I had people over, right? And of course, I'm not going to be rude, but there were some times where there was some downtime, and you can ask Fuzzy and Crispy. I'm sending them messages. Okay, this is topic 1. This topic 2 is what we're opening up with. It's I work on the show 7 days a week. Do I spend 8 hours a day in front of the computer? I don't, but I do work on the show 7 days a week, and I freaking love it. Like, I really love doing this. And again, I'm always going to be grateful for having an audience that appreciates the work that we put into it. And again, even though Mrs. Boom isn't on camera, and she probably never will be, she handles all the business side of it. And without her, we'd be finished. So thank you for the kind words, brother, and the continued support. We have here, Scott Gamer Dude drops not 1, but 2 $5 super chat. Scott goes on to say, hello, panel and chat. Happy belated birthday, Mr. BoomStick. I watched Kay Asante's video on full screen mode. Yeah, Kay did an amazing video. He actually did 2 of them, and they kind of exploded. And well deserved. That dude is as smart as anybody in any room, and he knows his business. As a matter of fact, he literally put the Xbox experience that we're going to get on the ROG, the Ally X and S, on my original ROG, and it should be delivered today. And I'm going to do an unboxing and do an in front of the camera, show what it looks like on the old ROGs. He did that for me, as well as add a few other things in the background, which I don't know how to do. So shout out to Kay Asante for the help. Scott Gamer Dude drops an additional, very generous $5 super chat. Scott says this: I am using it on my original Legion Go, and I will try it. I might still put Steam OS back on it. Well, that's cool. Again, if you enjoy the Steam OS, it's flawless. Again, I had a Steam Deck. I sold it. I went with the ROG. I barely used it, and now I'm going to get a chance to use it for a couple of weeks before the big boy comes in. And lastly, we have Joe Dunmore. Joe, great to see you here, brother. Thank you so much for always being in the chat. He drops, ladies and gentlemen, a very generous $2 super chat. Joe goes on to say, Forza 626. Interesting there. You never know where the information comes from. Joe, thank you for that, brother. That is a great tease. We will see. I mean, that would be much different. And you know something? You might be onto something, because they literally, I mean, I kind of just like rallied off like 6 first-party games, and there could be more. Like, next year is, first of all, next year is the 25th anniversary of Master Chief Cortana and Halo Combat Evolved. We know we're getting that. You got the 20th anniversary of Gears. I think there's an anniversary coming up for either Spyro or Crash. The 25th anniversary of the actual Xbox platform. Folks, it is going to be a wild year. And the rumored OEM box potentially releasing next year. If you're not with Xbox, you are doing it all wrong, ladies and gentlemen. But that's going to do it for us here. Let's get everyone out of here. So we'll start first with Crispy Bomb. Brother, if people would like the receipts and want the crispy truth, where can they reach out to you on social media, kind sir?
At Chris Bomb on X, Chris Bomb 20 Xbox Live. You could find me next week somewhere on Boom's channel, because I always show up somewhere.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. And if anyone's wondering, I suppose you'll appreciate this. This was the birthday shirt that I wore. This is my BoomStick. Obviously, if you're a fan of The Evil Dead. That is where Mr. Boomstick and Double Barrel Gaming's names actually come from. It's my love of the Evil Dead, more specifically, the Evil Dead 2. So a little fun fact if you didn't know. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand. Now, you and the missus are going to be getting into really doing some big things on the channel. And why? Well, it's going to be Shocktober, ladies and gentlemen, after tomorrow. That's right, horror from October 1st to the 31st. And no one celebrates horror better than Fuzzy Belvedere and the missus on, of course, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, Friday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sell the brand. I know you guys are going to have a lot of fun this month. Maybe do some dress up or whatever, but it's going to be fun. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to her YouTube channel? But more importantly, follow you guys on social media. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
As always, I love doing this with you, Boom, and you, Crispy. Always love talking about gaming in this industry and everything that goes on around it. For everybody listening, definitely clear that backlog. We got a ton of games coming before the end of this year, and more seem like they are stealth dropping or surprise drops or announcements to Game Pass. So be prepared, because we're getting a little overwhelmed here. But yeah, there's some awesome games out there to play. I put the link in the chat for my wife's YouTube for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. I can't remember what the episode is going to be about this Friday, but we do have Astral Paranormal on the channel right now. They're having an event in the middle of October for a haunted theater in Delaware. So definitely check that out. If you're into paranormal activity type of things, it's a worthwhile listen and watch as far as for that episode. But we got a lot of other surprises we're going to be introducing as far as films we've either participated in or backed or somehow involved in. So keep an eye out for that. Definitely follow my wife's Instagram channel. It's Ferocious Fee 78, as well as it's the same setup as her Blue Sky, as well as her Twitter account. Follow her social media for some of the pictures from the events that we attend and things like that. But all in all, be ready for next month. Be ready to get your scare on, I guess is the best way to put it. But also be safe, have fun out there, play some games, and enjoy. And we'll see.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Friday morning, brother. Because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to get into. There is more news breaking left, right, and again, folks, I had to rewrite a couple of shows last week, so there are a bunch of topics that I have written that I'd like to talk about because they were relevant to the time, and we'll get into those as the week progresses. But we have 2 additional super chats before we get on out of here and roll these credits. Gamer by Choice drops a whopping $30 super chat. Thank you so much for the generosity, brother. He says, I hope this pays for a good meal and a Dr. Pepper or ginger ale for your birthday. Now I'm going back to work so I can pay for my gaming habit. LOL. May have to start taking out loans to play games, shaking my damn head. Yeah, that's why you got to go with Xbox Game Pass, because you get everything in the service. And again, I don't get $1. I wish I got $1 for the time I said it, because then I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be a millionaire. We'd actually have the house paid for already if that was the case. Because again, it's the greatest deal in gaming. I don't know how you can argue that, especially with the output. And I've said this before. I think that 2025 is going to, when the year is officially done, levy one of the best years in the service. And on top of that, you're going to have quite a few games that are going to be in the game of the year conversation that were day and date in that service. I mean, folks, I don't know how you can argue the value you get with this thing. And if you're not into it, okay, I hear you, but you're crazy. If you're into video games, whether you play on PC or Xbox, you're a winner, especially at these prices. But the Broke Boy Insider drops an additional, very generous $5 super chat. Will goes on to say, I say Forza Horizon 6 on Xbox full 2026 and PS5 spring summer 27. He says Forza Horizon 4 was available for 6 years before delisting. That puts Forza Horizon 5 being shut down full winter 27. That's a really good thought in theory. Yeah, you know what? Listen, It's probably because the team is already hard at work at Fable and Forza. They can only do so much, right? They're going to port it at some point. But at the same time, from a business point of view, they just released Forza Horizon 5 a couple of months ago, and it's doing really well. Why cut its legs out and announce it for PS5? No, let people get excited. Put out a good trailer in January. People will be excited to play 6 because it's going to come to this console. They'll buy more copies of 5. Makes perfect sense. But thank you, everyone, for the incredible generosity today. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes that I got on my birthday, Thursday through the entire weekend. Of course, I couldn't respond to everyone. That's why I did just a general, thank you message on the socials, because it's just so much. And of course, I had family over the whole weekend, so it was a bit difficult. But again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for always celebrating me, and that's why I'm always going to celebrate you, fine folks. But let me close out the show, folks, with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.